Mr. and Mrs. Ndebele were proud parents of two children, Tumo, a 12-year-old boy, and Amina, a 10-year-old girl. The family lived in a modest but cozy home where laughter and love filled every corner. One sunny morning, the Ndebele family welcomed a new member into their home. A baby girl named Zazi was born, and her parents' hearts swelled with joy. Tumo and Amina were thrilled to have a baby sister and showered her with love and affection. Mr. and Mrs. Ndebele took great care of Zazi, ensuring she was always happy and healthy. As Zazi grew, she brought immense happiness to her family. Her giggles were infectious, and her bright eyes sparkled with curiosity. The Ndebele household was a place of warmth and love, where every day was filled with joy and laughter. When Zazi turned 1, her parents noticed something unusual. Her neck began to grow longer than it should. At first, they thought it was just a phase, but as months passed, her neck continued to stretch, becoming longer and longer. Mr. and Mrs. Ndebele grew increasingly worried and decided to seek help. The village had a well-known herbalist named Baba Musa, who was respected for his knowledge of traditional medicine. Desperate for a solution, Zazi's parents took her to see him. Baba Musa examined Zazi carefully and gave her several herbs, hoping they would help. But despite his efforts, Zazi's neck continued to grow longer. As Zazi grew older, her unusual appearance began to draw attention. The other children in the village would stare and point at her, whispering behind her back. Some even ran away in fear, thinking she was a monster. Zazi felt hurt and confused. She didn't understand why the other children were afraid of her. Every day, Zazi would return home in tears, telling her parents about how the children teased her. "Mama, why do they call me names? Why do they run away from me?" she would ask, her eyes filled with sadness. Mrs. Ndebele would hold her close and try to comfort her. "Zazi, my dear, you are special in your own way. Some people may not understand, but that doesn't mean there is anything wrong with you." But no matter how much her parents tried to console her, the teasing continued. The villagers began to spread rumors, saying that Zazi was cursed. They warned their children to stay away from her, afraid that her supposed curse would bring bad luck. Zazi's life became increasingly lonely. She had no friends except for her siblings, Tumo and Amina. They were her constant companions, always there to defend and comfort her. Tumo, being the eldest, was protective of Zazi and often stood up to the other children who teased her. Amina, gentle and kind, would sit with Zazi for hours, reading stories and playing games to distract her from the hurtful words. Despite their support, Zazi felt the sting of loneliness deeply. She spent most of her days indoors, afraid to face the outside world. The thought of going out and being laughed at or stared at made her heart ache. She knew her appearance scared the other children, and it made her feel like an outcast. Inside the Ndebele home, Zazi found solace. She loved to draw and paint, losing herself in the vibrant colors and shapes she created. Her drawings often depicted beautiful landscapes and happy families, a reflection of the love she felt within her own home. Tumo and Amina would admire her artwork, praising her talent and encouraging her to continue. Zazi also enjoyed helping her mother in the kitchen. She loved the smell of fresh bread baking in the oven and the warmth of the kitchen as they prepared meals together. Mrs. Ndebele taught her how to cook traditional dishes, and Zazi took great pride in learning the recipes that had been passed down through generations. Despite the challenges she faced, Zazi found moments of joy and happiness in the simple things. Her family's love and support were her anchor, giving her the strength to face each day. She dreamed of a time when she could step outside without fear, when the other children would see beyond her appearance and accept her for who she was. One evening, As the family sat together under the starry sky, Tumo spoke up. Zazi, you know you have a gift. Your drawings are amazing. Maybe one day you can show them to the village. I bet they would love them. Zazi looked up at her brother, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Do you really think so, Tumo? Do you think they would like my drawings? Amina nodded enthusiastically. Of course they would. Your drawings are beautiful, just like you. We believe in you, Zazi. Encouraged by her siblings' words, Zazi began to dream of a brighter future. She imagined a day when the villagers would appreciate her for her talent, when they would see the beauty in her heart and not just her appearance. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but with her family's support, she felt ready to take on the challenge. As time went on, Zazi continued to stay indoors most of the time, finding comfort in her family's love and the activities she enjoyed. One day, as she sat by her window watching the sunrise, she had an idea. If nobody wants to be around me because of my looks, I will go where there are no people. I will go to the bushes and streams very early in the morning when everyone else is still asleep. This idea filled her with excitement and hope. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Zazi quietly slipped out of the house. She walked towards the forest, feeling a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in a long time. The air was cool and the birds were beginning to chirp. Zazi smiled, taking in the beauty around her. She found a small clearing in the forest and decided to make it her special place. She gathered some sticks and leaves and built a small tent where she could sit and draw. Every morning, Zazi would wake up early and head to her secret spot. She brought her painting materials with her and spent hours capturing the beauty of nature on her canvas. One early morning, Zazi decided to visit the village stream to get new ideas for her paintings. She loved the way the water sparkled in the sunlight and the sound of the gentle flow. When Zazi reached the stream, she sat down on a rock and began to sketch. She was so focused on her work that she didn't notice a man approaching. The man's name was Kato. He was new to the village and had come to fetch water from the stream. As Kato approached the water, he saw Zazi sitting there with her long neck and unusual appearance. He was startled and took a few steps back. Zazi looked up and saw the fear in Kato's eyes. Her heart sank and tears began to well up. She was used to people being afraid of her, but it still hurt every time. She started to gather her things, ready to leave when she heard Kato's voice. "Wait!" Kato called out, stepping closer. "I'm sorry for running away. I was just surprised. I've never seen anyone like you before." Zazi stopped and looked at Kato. His eyes were kind, and he wasn't running away anymore. She felt a small glimmer of hope. Kato walked closer and sat down on a rock near her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Zazi," she replied softly. "My name is Zazi." Kato smiled. "That's a beautiful name. My name is Kato. What are you doing here so early in the morning?" Zazi hesitated, then decided to tell him everything. "I come here to paint," she began. "I love drawing and painting nature, but I come early because the other children tease me. They say I'm cursed because of my long neck. They call me names and run away when they see me." Tears rolled down Zazi's cheeks as she spoke. Kato listened carefully, his heart aching for her. He reached out and gently wiped her tears. "I'm so sorry you had to go through this," Kato said softly. "It's not fair, and it's not right. You are special, Zazi, and there is nothing wrong with you. I think your paintings must be beautiful, just like you." Zazi looked up at Kato, her eyes filled with a mix of surprise and gratitude. She had never had anyone speak to her like that, apart from her family. Kato's kindness warmed her heart, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope. "Can I see your paintings?" Kato asked, curious. Zazi hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She pulled out her sketchbook and showed him her drawings. Kato's eyes widened in amazement as he looked at her artwork. The drawings were filled with vibrant colors and intricate details, capturing the beauty of the forest and the stream perfectly. "These are amazing, Zazi," Kato exclaimed. "You have a real talent. You shouldn't have to hide this from the world." Zazi blushed at his praise. "Thank you, Kato. Painting makes me happy. It's my way of escaping from the pain." Kato nodded. "I'm glad you found something that makes you happy. And you know what? You don't have to be alone anymore. I will be your friend, Zazi. I don't care what anyone else thinks." Zazi's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of happiness. "Thank you, Kato. That means so much to me." From that day on, Zazi and Kato became good friends. They met at the stream every morning, and Kato would watch as Zazi painted. He often brought her small gifts, like colorful leaves or flowers, to add to her artwork. With Kato's encouragement, Zazi began to feel more confident. She knew she still had a long way to go, but having a friend who accepted her for who she was made all the difference. Kato's kindness didn't stop there. He started talking to the villagers about Zazi, explaining that there was nothing wrong with her and that she was just like everyone else. Slowly, the villagers began to see Zazi in a new light. They realized that they had been wrong to judge her based on her appearance. Though it took time, the teasing began to lessen. Some of the children who once ran away from Zazi now greeted her with smiles. They were curious about her paintings and wanted to see her artwork. Zazi felt her heart lift with each small act of acceptance. With Kato's friendship and the slow but steady change in the villagers' attitudes, Zazi's life began to improve. She still enjoyed her early morning trips to the stream and the forest, but now she did it with a lighter heart. She knew that she was not alone anymore, and that there were people who appreciated her for who she was. One day, Kato brought a special surprise for Zazi. He had made a small wooden frame for one of her paintings. "I thought we could hang this in the village square," he said, smiling, "so everyone can see how talented you are." Zazi's eyes sparkled with joy. "Really? You think they will like it?" "I'm sure they will," Kato replied. "Your art is beautiful and it deserves to be seen." Together they hung the painting in the village square. As the villagers passed by, they stopped to admire the artwork. They were amazed by the beauty and talent displayed in Zazi's painting. Slowly, their hearts began to change, and they started to see Zazi not as someone to be feared, but as a talented and special girl. With each passing day, Zazi grew more confident. She no longer hid away indoors, but ventured out with a smile, knowing that she was accepted and appreciated. Kato, who had always been kind and supportive, began to develop special feelings for Zazi. He admired her courage and was captivated by her beautiful paintings. He loved spending time with her by the stream and in the forest, watching her create her artwork. Slowly, his admiration grew into something deeper. One sunny morning, Kato decided to tell Zazi how he felt. He found her by the stream, painting as usual. Gathering his courage, he approached her and said, "Zazi, there is something I need to tell you." Zazi looked up from her painting, curious. "What is it, Kato?" Kato took a deep breath. "Zazi, I have come to care for you so much. I love you, and I want to be with you. Will you be my wife?" Zazi was stunned. She had never thought anyone would love her in that way because of her long neck. Her heart pounded, and she didn't know what to say. "Kato, I'm not sure. I'm afraid that you might leave me for someone else in the future. someone who is more beautiful. Kato's eyes filled with sadness. Zazi, you are beautiful to me. Your kindness, your talent, and your strength are what make you special. I promise I will never leave you. But Zazi was too scared. She had been hurt too many times by people who didn't understand her. I'm sorry, Kato. I can't. Kato was disappointed, but he didn't let it stop him. He knew he loved Zazi and wanted to prove to her that he meant what he said. He decided to take a brave step and visit Zazi's parents. The next day, Kato went to Zazi's house and knocked on the door. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ndebele, welcomed him inside. Good morning, Kato. What brings you here today? Mr. Ndebele asked. Kato took a deep breath. I have come to talk to you about Zazi. I love her and I want to marry her. She's scared that I might leave her for someone else, but I promise I will never do that. I wanted to let you know that I mean well for her. Mr. and Mrs. Ndebele looked at each other, then at Kato. They saw the sincerity in his eyes and were touched by his bravery. Thank you for coming to us, Kato, Mrs. Ndebele said. We can see that you truly care for our daughter. We will talk to Zazi. When Zazi came home from her painting that evening, her parents called her into the living room. She could tell something important was happening. Zazi, Mr. Ndebele began. Kato visited us today. He told us that he loves you and wants to marry you. Zazi's heart raced. I know, Papa, but I'm scared. What if he leaves me for someone else in the future? Mrs. Ndebele took Zazi's hand. Zazi, we understand your fears, but we believe Kato is a good man who truly loves you. He has shown great courage by coming to us and expressing his feelings. You are safe with him. Zazi listened to her parents' words, feeling a bit more hopeful. She thought about how Kato had always been kind and supportive, never judging her for her appearance. After thinking it over, Zazi decided to trust her parents' advice. The next morning, she met Kato by the stream. Kato, she began, I have thought about what you said, and I want to give us a chance. I will marry you. Kato's face lit up with joy. Zazi, you have made me the happiest man in the world. I promise I will always love you and never leave you. With their decision made, plans for the wedding began. Zazi's family helped prepare for the big day. As they exchanged vows, Kato promised to love and cherish Zazi for all the days of his life. Zazi, with tears of happiness in her eyes, promised to love and trust Kato. The villagers cheered and clapped, happy to see Zazi so joyful. As the years passed, Zazi and Kato remained deeply in love. They had a family of their own, teaching their children about kindness, acceptance, and the beauty of being different. Zazi continued to paint, sharing her artwork with the village and beyond. She had found her place in the world, surrounded by love and acceptance, and she knew that she was truly blessed.